Hello everyone, welcome to Trail Talk. I'm so glad you could join us this afternoon. I hope we have a huge group of people out there watching, and you know what, if you're not watching live, we're on there for posterity. So welcome to my very special guest, Emory Schulz. Welcome, Emory.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, and not having to work.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
win-win.
Emory actually works here at the Heritage Center. That's how I've had the pleasure of getting to know him, and he's had like this really cool, exciting summer. And also, I mean, not just the summer, but it seems like toward the end of school, there were so many different things that you were doing that I kept thinking, man, he's just, but the common thread of all of it was FFA.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about all of that here in just a minute. But first, which doesn't he look very handsome in his little FFA jacket and everything? I love it. So good. Anyway, so tell me a little bit, tell the viewers a little bit about yourself. Like, how old are you and what year in school? And like, have you always lived here? That kind of stuff.
Like you said, I'm Emory Schulz. I'm 17. I'm going into my senior year at Duncan High School. I've lived in Duncan for 10 years now. Lived in Vernon, Texas for 8 years. And then my mom met my bonus dad. They got married. We moved here, across the river. Lived here ever since.
You came to God's country.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And then
sorry, Texas friends.
Started showing when I was 9, so 3rd grade, and shown ever since then. So
you got into showing animals after you moved up here?
Correct.
And what animals do you show?
Pigs.
Pigs, okay. In particular breed?
I'll show just about anything.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite pig that you've had?
Favorite pig? Oh.
You have more than one?
Yeah. My Hereford gilt that I had this past year was pretty good.
Yeah.
Bailey's jealous back there. I can see it.
That's so not fair.
Any of my Durocs that I've had, they're always really good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. People always love those Durocs are my favorite to watch. They're just beautiful pigs. So, well, that's pretty awesome. What is it about showing animals that you really like? I mean, you've been doing it for almost 9 years. Yeah. So, what do you really love about that?
Honestly, it's about the responsibilities, and when we get our show team together, we start working as a team. Everyone helps each other. Even at the show barn, even if you're not from the same show team, everybody helps each other. So I say a pig started taking off running, someone from Central grab that pig and be like, here you go, you got this.
Right.
Calm down, take a breath.
Right.
You got this.
Yeah. I always loved meeting all the other people because you see them at every show, you know, and so getting to know all these kids from other towns, because I mean, like, in my day, we didn't have cell phones and ways to really communicate with each other, so we wouldn't see each other or talk to each other all week, and then here comes the fair, you know, in the fall, all the county fairs, and we meet up at the little town fairs even, meet up at the fairs and hang out all weekend, and oh my goodness, it was so much fun. But it's funny you talk about the responsibility. I mean, that's not always a word that people would associate with a teenager really liking. So kind of talk about what you mean by that, responsibility.
So whenever we start feeding twice a day, I have to feed before school, so I will usually wake up about 5:30 in the morning, go feed, make sure they're doing good. Then sometimes I'll either go back to sleep for a little bit, or I'll start getting ready for the day, go to school all day, come home, feed, and then I'll walk and groom. And usually it's probably sometimes between 8:30 when I get back in the house to be able to do homework or whatever else I have to get done. So I have to balance school and being the president and pigs all at one time.
So the thing about all that time you spend with your animals, though, if you really love spending time with animals like that, then it doesn't seem like you're really putting in all that extra work.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just a joy. It's kind of a, yeah, it's hard work, but you just keep building your relationship with your animal,
Right.
which is important in the show ring.
Absolutely.
And so kind of describe what happens at a stock show.
So here at County, we'll move in on a Sunday. We'll usually feed and wash that night. And then Monday, it's kind of like our free day, but we still have to feed, wash, make sure they're doing okay. Then on Tuesday, that's our show day, so those of us that have gilts will go early in the morning, wash, give them anything they want to eat, and then we'll take them to the show ring. And usually when you're going to the show ring, your whole team is going with you. Sometimes some stay back because they have one that's about to go, but it's a whole team affair, and you always know they have your back. And there's nothing better than coming out of that ring, even if you just got dead last. You see your show team and they're like, you did so good. Even sometimes when you're mad and you don't want to talk to them, those are the first people you talk to.
Right, right. So that whole camaraderie, people may not think about that whole kind of team mindset that you have when you're showing animals, but it is there. Did you kind of have that before? Because FFA is a high school program. So did you have that prior to high school?
I did, because so when I started in 3rd grade, I was the little one. So everyone was like, oh, we're taking care of him.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was always the one they always picked on, or the one they always carried, or
hung upside down or whatever. Yeah, there were a few
sprayed
shenanigans. A few shenanigans happened in the show barn.
One of them that did it was behind the camera right now.
So Bailey, we won't say but I wonder if she'll come in front of the camera to stop us. No, I don't think so either. We might be in the same place right now. Real quick, you said you showed a gilt. Did you only show gilts?
I showed bears when I first started, and then when I got to high school, I started doing gilts.
Okay, so tell us what is a gilt?
So a gilt is a girl pig who has not had any babies yet.
Okay.
And then a barra is a male who has been castrated.
Okay, and so the females, you show them by age group?
We go by birthday.
You go by birthday, okay. But the barrows,
they go by weight.
They go by weight.
Right.
And so I thought that was funny when you said you feed your gilt anything she wanted to eat.
Anything she'll eat, we'll give it to her.
Before you show her. What about the barrows?
Barras, it kind of depends on their age, on their weight. Sometimes they're starving.
Yeah.
And they're not dying, but sometimes they are starving. But other ones, they can get just about anything they want depending on where they are in that weight range. And some people say, oh, you're mistreating them. No, we're trying to make them look good.
Right, right. And I mean, it's sad news. The barrows are going to get eaten anyway, audience. So, hate to break it to you. So they're going to the market.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so you were involved in showing. So did you feel like FFA was just a natural next step for you because you were part of that kind of that group of people, or was there something else about FFA that made you want to join? Because you don't have to be in FFA to show the animals, even as a high school student.
Right, you can still do 4-H.
Yeah.
But in 8th grade, I was like, I don't really know if I want to do FFA. I don't really want to live in the shadow of other people. And then my ag teacher just kept pushing me to do it. So I finally just gave in, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. So then freshman year, I was like, okay, I'm going to put my heart to this, and then COVID came. And then I was like, well, what am I going to do now? So then I was like, I'm still going to push as hard as possible.
Did you still have stock shows during COVID?
So we were actually at our show up in the city.
Was it OIE?
We were at OIE, and we had just gotten done with the gilt show, and Jarbo had come back to get the barras. I want to say Gilts could not come home that show. I don't remember. And that's when they got the news, hey, we're done. And so the bear people, they didn't get to show, and gilt people, they had just gotten done, and then the whole world shut down.
Right. So, so that kind of change the end of your freshman year. But up to that point, were you enjoying FFA?
I was.
Had you already gone through like green hand initiation and all of that kind of
So
stuff?
I had already kind of done creed speaking.
Uh-huh.
It was just kind of a fun contest, the first one. So I was actually getting ready to go to my first real contest, and we were practicing for quiz bowls, but then COVID came and shut it all down. So we're like, okay, we're gonna start studying for next year,
Right.
which we kind of studied.
Yeah, kind of. Well,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the intention was
The intention was
were
there.
they were good. So, okay, so I think you've kind of opened the door now to talk about FFA because Creed, what'd you say? Call it Creed?
Creed contest.
Creed contest, quiz bowl. I know there are like animal judging teams, and there's all sorts of activities.
You name it, we probably have it.
Besides participating as an animal showman or whatever. I know that that's highly encouraged, but you know, the thing I always thought made FFA really special is because of those other opportunities, kids who either can't afford an animal, don't live in a place where raising an animal is even a possibility, they can still learn about agriculture and have all these other skills developed in them.
Absolutely.
Through FFA, which includes, speeches and like talking one-on-one with an adult and teamwork on all kinds of things. So, what has been like maybe your favorite kind of competition you've had a chance to participate in?
Ooh, favorite competition? I don't know. I'd have to say speech contest because I just did my first speech this past year after my ag teacher just kept pushing me to do it.
And I think he means encouraging him to do it. Maybe, but no, okay, it's push.
It's push.
All right, Mr. Jarbo, we're going with push. I tried.
And so I wrote it, memorized it in about 2 weeks, right before contest. And going to contest, I was like, Jarbo, I don't know if I can do this. And he goes, you got this, who cares if you make it to area? You're doing this right now, you got it. So, we get first at regionals, we go to area, and I'm starting to see all these other people I know. And they're like, oh, what's your speech about? And I told them, and I'm like, what's yours about? And they told me, and going to all these other contests, you see all these people, and you're like, what's your speech going to be about next year? And they're like, oh, I'm going to do such and such, or anything. It's all meeting the people.
Right. You still have those same kind of opportunities. You probably even saw people you knew from shows.
Right.
And just kind of continue those friendships just in a different venue.
Right.
So, speeches, giving a speech is super fun. I always thought that was such a fun thing to do. Are you kind of limited on your topics, or do they require you to like choose from these topics, or how does that look?
So there's about 5 or 6 different divisions. There's agribusiness, agriscience, natural resources. There's 2 more I can't think of. And then you can choose any topic within that specific division, and you have 6 to 8 minutes to give a speech.
Oh, that's a pretty long speech. Yeah.
And then it has to be completely they encourage it to be completely memorized. A lot of them will go in with note cards just in case. And then you have to answer at least 3 minutes worth of questions.
Oh, about your speech at the end. Very nice. Very nice. So what was your favorite? Have you just done the one speech?
I have.
Okay, and so what was your topic?
So my topic was GPS usage in farming.
I like that. That is I grew up on a farm, and I've watched all these things evolve. We were never like, big time farming operation or anything like that, but just all the ways technology assists farmers and ranchers today is just,
oh, it's incredible.
Gosh, it's just such a
driverless tractors.
Yes. My dad was talking about that the other day, about these driverless tractors, you know, and everything. I mean, man, there's opportunities to make farming easier. The trick is being able to afford the technology when you're a farmer.
It is not cheap.
It is not cheap, and the farming life is not, you don't make it rain with cash. I mean, that it's a really rough life. I mean, my dad always supplemented our family's income with a 40-hour-a-week job, you know. So, did you learn anything cool about GPS?
So I actually learned about the driverless tractors, and then I also learned that with the driverless tractors, it's all on an app. So all they gotta do is take the tractor out to the field or wherever they want it and hit. It's like kind of like a music app. You just gotta hit play, and it'll just go. And if it comes within something it doesn't want to run over, the driver can look on his phone, and it has about 16 different cameras all around the tractor, and they can see what it is on the ground, and it can say, yeah, run over it, or no, lift up, go over it, then start again.
It sounds like a giant Roomba or
It
something.
It is.
You know,
it sounds like it.
And kind of maybe mixed with a drone kind of thing a little bit. So do they set a pattern, or the parameters of the?
So they actually drive in their fields first, and they'll put the tractor in like a scanning mode. So it kind of scans where all it goes, where all the fences are, and what's where. And so then whenever you hit start, it'll just go wherever it needs to be, and it'll know where high fertilization areas are and low fertilizations are, and it's actually really cool to watch.
That is so amazing. Oh my goodness. That is the coolest thing I think I've ever heard. That is really, I mean, I'm picturing like a, you know, taking all these pictures and everything. But it's such a smart, that means it's very smart. It gathers the data and analyzes and then sets itself to go.
Yeah.
Wow, that's super cool. Okay, I'm not going to chase that one down the rabbit hole any farther because I can feel myself going that way. So you really love the speech contest. Did you ever get to do a quiz bowl?
So we actually did a quiz bowl this past year on animal science. And we didn't actually do that good.
Well,
which we had to go against the #1 team in the state on our first round, so that kind of killed us.
Right.
We've already decided as soon as school starts this year, we're really going to hit hard studying.
Yeah.
And we're going to try as hard as we can to go back and beat Norman.
Good.
So,
there you go. I like that kind of enthusiasm and drive. I'm sure Jarbo likes that.
He does
too. So these are like extracurricular activities, but is there a time during the school day that you actually have classes, ag classes? So what kinds of things do you study in class?
So it actually depends on our class, because we have our Ag 1, which is freshmen, and they're kind of just learning the history of FFA or anything they really just need to know that first year, or learning the creed. That's really what we push hard the first few weeks, is you need to learn the creed. And then, they'll start learning the history or animals, whatever. And then our sophomores usually take our ag communications class, so they're learning about, it's basically like a second English class. So they're learning about photography and writing essays and papers and anything they really need to learn about that. And then we have our horticulture class, which we mainly worked in the greenhouse and learned about plants and all that. And
which you guys are probably familiar with, the FFA plant sale we have every year,
And then we also have our Ag 2 class, which I have not taken yet, which I believe I'm taking this year. But I think it's just kind of like an animal science class, so you're just kind of learning the anatomy of animals and stuff. And then we also have our shop class, which they just go out there, learn to weld, and they're always building projects for Jarbo or the chapter. So
because our school has like a piece of land where students can keep animals, right?
Yeah.
Did yours stay there, or did they stay at your house? Yeah. I mean, again, a great opportunity for kids who don't have access to land
Right.
or a place where they could keep their animals. And so a city kid who's really interested in all of that can have an animal, and the school provides that land. I love that. I love that so much. All of these things that you're learning are what would you say would be the focus? What do you think the agriculture, the class time, what is that preparing the students for?
I'd have to say it's sometimes like it's very just an independent class. So sometimes you're on your own. Sometimes Jarbo will sit there and teach, but a lot of the times it's, hey, get a book, read this chapter, or read this page, and do questions 1 through 5.
Right.
So I think it's teaching you to be able to do these assignments on your own. And yeah, you can ask your friends, but a lot of the time I wouldn't trust their answers. So
Yeah.
I think it's teaching you to be able to work on your own and be able to get the correct answers. And a lot of the times Jarbo will walk in the next day and be like, okay, we're grading. Hope you have it done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, that's really important. Independent study habits, that kind of thing. And it sounded like the communications class sounded to me like helping people, or helping the students prepare for maybe either promoting ag or writing, like, I don't know, just writing in general. Maybe you'll need to write a grant, or maybe you'll need to fill out an application for this as a farmer or rancher. I mean, there are a lot of things that that could be very helpful for you to do. I know even like county extension offices, if you're having problems with your crop or animals, you contact them, and maybe they need pictures and descriptions, and so you've learned how to communicate well with that. I think that's really an important thing. Right. Do you know like how long FFA has been a part of the curriculum in schools?
I know our chapter has been around since 1945.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a long time.
National FFA has been around since 1928. So
wow.
It started in Virginia.
Almost 100 years ago. That is something. It started in Virginia. My goodness, that's really interesting. I've never studied it or anything before. So have your ag classes been your favorite?
Absolutely. There's a lot of the times I'll be in another class and we're not doing anything, so I'll be like, hey, can I go to the ag room? And I'll just go in there and bug Jarbo or work on something else, or work on my speech, or work on anything I need to get done, work on other classroom stuff.
And in a school the size of Duncan High School, having that smaller community of people, I think it probably really helps you feel a part of a group, kind of a family kind of group there at school.
It does.
And when you're a part of a large school, that's really important. To help a student really just want to stay a part of it, and work hard and everything. Has being an FFA made you want to work harder in your other classes and make really good grades and things like that? Has it helped you with that?
Yeah, because being an officer, we have to maintain at least a 3.0 GPA.
Wow,
so,
that's most GPAs are not, for most organizations, are not required to be that high. That's awesome.
Jarbo, if we are on the failing list or we're on probation, you need to get this up now. That's all you're going to work on until it's up. So it really pushes us, because we know he's watching grades, we know parents are watching grades. So it really pushes us to work harder in all these other classes. That way we can go back to the ag room and work on stuff we need to get there.
Right. Do you feel like it's a kind of a family affair?
Oh, absolutely.
Being a part of it, like your whole family gets involved?
So I have 2 older siblings who went through FFA, and then my parents do a lot.
Are those the shadows you were talking about earlier? Okay. I just want to be sure.
And my parents get really involved. Biggest supporters. I know I can text them and be like, hey, can y'all come help this, or I need this, and they'll be there. Or there's show parents that I know are only a phone call away. I'm like, hey, I need you to come help.
Right.
Or will you come help me out at the school farm? And they'll be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So it's very family.
I remember being at stock shows, and there were so many dads around that if I needed my dad, I would call him by his first name. And someone would be like, why are you calling your dad by his name? I'm like, because there's so many dads around, I need him to know I'm talking to him. I always felt like that.
At shows, if someone yells mom, there's about 4 of them that turn around.
Yeah.
We're like, no, we need you.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so you are currently the president of your chapter. How did you, or how were you selected for that position?
So you have to at least be an officer 1 year. So my sophomore year, I was the treasurer.
Okay.
So then the next year, or at the end of that year, we had our interviews, and there was no seniors above me. So I felt pretty confident I was going to get president or vice president at least. And then I was selected as president. So my junior year, I served as the president. And I felt pretty confident coming into this year being president again, but I knew I had a great team of officers that year before that were going to fight for it. So we went into our interviews, and I fought hard for it and ultimately got it. So
very nice. So you're saying interviews. So is that the whole process? Is there paperwork that you fill out?
I mean, there's a few questions. Like there's an interview, or there's a paper we have to fill out. It's a few questions on it. Like what are your goals? What are your top 5 achievements? What is your supervised agriculture event? Or just basic FFA questions. And then I know the interviewers, they get that and they kind of ask questions based off of that or any questions they have.
And so, tell us what that interview process looks like.
So the last few years we've had it in the office, in the conference room office. So we walk in, there's a chair right, not middle of the room, but kind of back, and there's tables surrounding. And there's board members or principals or counselors or former FFA members, and they'll just ask any questions. I knew everybody in that room.
And didn't you say there were about 10 people?
There was roughly about 5 to 10.
5 to 10.
It kind of just depends on the year. Depends on who we can get, who's available.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll just ask questions. It's roughly about 5-10 minutes. It's real quick, simple. Sometimes they can go longer, depending on who's all in there.
Right.
Got any chatters?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Like if I was there, it might drag. So I love those kinds of situations because those are real life job situations. And I love it when a student has an opportunity to experience something like that. I mean, I just feel like there are so many personal feelings and outcomes that you have as a result. I mean, you're handling the pressure and communicating and looking at people and, speaking to an adult and just, man, it just teaches so much. Not to mention, you learn how to kind of talk yourself up without sounding, like...
You try to say I without saying I.
Exactly. Oh, that's a good one. So, okay, so you're the president again for your senior year. So there are a couple of other things about FFA specifically that I wanted to ask you about. So isn't there like a state farmer or state there's you make this giant scrapbook thing?
State degrees.
State degrees.
So at the end of this year, when we go to state convention, there's about 400 seniors who will get their state degrees. So starting, as soon as school starts, we'll actually get started. Us 2 seniors at Duncan will get started on ours. And we have to have those turned in by February 1st. And we have to have so much expenses, so much income, and we have to have all 4 years worth of activities. We cannot have more than 20 activities in each division that they give us. And We just have to fill out the application. I think there's an essay, I'm not 100% sure. And so then that gets put to a selection committee, and they make sure, you know, everything's right on it. If one thing's wrong, you're out, which is very tough. There was a lot of late nights when my sister was getting hers. There was a lot of late nights with them at the ag room working on it. And it's very...
It's pretty involved. Yeah. And so you're planning to do that.
Right.
Okay, all right. And so that's gonna require a lot of your time, to extra time that you want to commit to that. What is the benefit of doing that?
I mean, the way I've always looked at it, it's a way to show you put in all this work for your chapter, for the state organization, for national FFA, and it's finally paying off to get a degree.
Does it help you with scholarship? Are there scholarship opportunities with that?
There can be. A lot of colleges will look at it and they're like, wow, that's really good.
I mean, honestly, it sounds a little bit like Eagle Scout kind of requirements. There are a lot of things you have to fill out on an Eagle project, you know, that sounds almost exactly like that. And, you know, though people, whether you get the financial compensation or not from a school, people always look at that and they go, oh, it's on your resume. That's probably something you will always put on a resume.
Absolutely.
You know, that you have your state FFA degree, and so people will know, okay, he put a lot into that, you know, and it just speaks for itself. So that's awesome. The other thing is running for state office.
Right.
So is that something that you would like to do, or you're planning to do?
As of right now, I am planning on doing it. The way that works is I have to have the application turned in by, I think it's mid-January, and then we have to send that off, and then in early February, we will go to the city for an interview, and I have to give a 2-minute speech to the panel of judges that are actually high school students that are selected, and then I have to do about a 10-minute interview with them, and then I have to wait 2 days to make sure I'm even in the top 3. So then if I'm in the top 3, I can go around whatever I get. So right now I'm planning on running for the Central Area Vice President, which is, I believe it's from Oklahoma City down in a little narrow area, and so I can go around that area and kind of not campaign, but get my name out there in all the chapters, and hope they vote for me at state convention. Then we'll go to state convention, and I'll give a 5-minute speech on stage in front of everybody, and hope they vote for me.
Wow, that sounds like a really cool experience too. And so then, so that's all happening in the spring, and then you graduate in May. So you serve as
a state officer your freshman year of college.
And so what does that require of you?
So they're constantly going around the state all year long, their freshman year. So most of them always go to OSU, because OSU will work with them the best. And
to help, like, you schedule being away. Okay.
And they're constantly going to chapters or going to other states. So I know there's a few of them that just went to the Texas State Convention that's happening right now. Texas will come up here, Oklahoma goes down to theirs, and so they'll go to those, or they're actually getting ready to leave to go to DC for an officer summit up there, and then they do a tour around the state, all the different chapters, and it's quite a bit.
So how many different regions are there in the state?
So there is the Northwest, Northeast, Southwest, Central, and Southeast.
Okay, and so there will be 5 presidents, 5 vice presidents.
So there's 5 vice presidents, and then there's a state reporter, state secretary, and state president.
Oh, okay. So you would be the lone representative from the central region. Wow, so that's cool. Very cool. I'm pretty excited about that. I can't wait to hear all the stuff you're doing to get ready for that, Emory. So cool. So, this summer, this is why I asked you to be my guest on Trail Talk today. You have done some super cool things this summer. Is this the first summer that you've taken trips with FFA?
I went to a different camp last summer.
Uh-huh.
Same camp I went to this past trip I went on. But the WLC trip, this was the first time I've ever gone to that.
Okay, so tell us about that. What is WLC?
So WLC is Washington Leadership Conference. Oklahoma, we got on a bus at Chickasha, and we drove 27 hours to Washington, D.C.
And how many FFA members were there?
From Oklahoma, there was about 100
Okay.
or so,
Okay.
maybe less. Drove 27 hours, 2 buses to DC. We got really close with each other. So when we got to DC, we kind of all expanded, started meeting other people. And
because that week, there were about how many?
There was about 400 kids there, all from different states.
And how many weeks did this conference go on this summer?
The conference goes for 10 weeks, the entire summer.
Okay.
We were there week 3.
Okay. I just think it's important for people to know what kind of a really big deal this is, and that all of these FFA students are having this opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. All right, so what kind of things did they have planned for you guys there?
So we did the Monument Night tours, which was really cool.
Those are so awesome.
Even though it did start pouring down rain on us.
Oh, yeah.
It was still fun. Nothing better than soaking wet, waiting on your bus to get back.
Exactly.
And then we went to Arlington National Cemetery, which was very, very cool. That was very eye-opening. And then
it's hard to really imagine from pictures or video
absolutely
how enormous that place is, and just to think that every one of those crosses represents just one person who really gave their life for our country. I mean, even though you don't have to die in battle to be buried there, but think of all the people who did die in battle and didn't come back to be buried there. I mean, yeah, okay, I'll stop chasing that one now. But yes, Arlington it's an incredible place to visit.
And then we went to the Capitol, which got cut short.
That was the Roe v. Wade
Yes.
decision week, yeah, and so there were protesters.
And they said we were in an unsafe area, so we had to leave.
Yeah.
And so then on Saturday, we went to the Smithsonian Zoo. That was pretty fun. Hot, but fun.
Yeah.
And then we also went to the American Indian Smithsonian.
That's a super cool museum.
That was.
Yeah, so did they have you guys on a pretty tight schedule?
It was pretty tight. When we were at the zoo, we had 2 hours to ourselves, but they just told us, hey, be back by 3.
Yeah.
We need to go.
Yeah.
So it was pretty tight.
So it was a leadership conference.
Absolutely.
So did you have times where you guys met and you were, I don't know, were there just speakers or what was that?
We called them our facilitators. They were kind of our leaders there. And so when we were in our large group sessions, they would talk to us about leadership and letting others help us and how to have our personal problems, but we need to leave those aside. And yeah, they still hurt, but we need to go help others. And then we had what is called our community groups, which is about 20 people in a small group, and we'd have our own little hotel room with our facilitator. And they would really emphasize whatever our community or what our large group session was.
So you got a smaller group to really talk it out there.
You really had your one-on-one time, or you really grow close with that community group. So that's the time you can really open up, and you can say whatever, and they won't go share it with the whole world.
Wow, that sounds like a really great. So what were your 3 big takeaways from that week? What were 3 things that really stood out?
The biggest one that stood out was there is pain in the world, even if we are blind to it. Don't be blind to the pain in the world.
Wow, good word. That's a good word. Yeah.
Let others help me. Don't just push them away because you're going through stuff. and always be willing to work as a team.
Wow, those are 3 really good lessons. I mean, if you can like seriously hang on to that and carry that with you through life, those are super, super good things for you to really remember. Is that something that you will have an opportunity to ever do again?
No.
No, that was a one-time thing.
The only time I can go back up there is if I want to be a facilitator. So.
Would you have to be there 10 weeks?
Counting their training week, they're there about 11 weeks.
That's a long time, but that would be a cool experience too. Would. Very cool. Well, I'm just having a thought. If you were elected as a state officer, would you have responsibilities in the summer that would not allow you to do something like that?
Yeah, because as soon as I looked at the schedule this past year to see what they kind of went through. So my graduation would be on the 18th, and then they left on the 24th to go to a leadership conference in Stillwater, and they were there for about 2 weeks or about a week. And just learning about how the Oklahoma Association works.
The state officers? Okay.
And then about a week after that, they went to another leadership training. And then as soon as they got out of that, they started planning for our alumni camp that they lead. And then they went to our Oklahoma FFA year and started picking out their wardrobes for the year, and so they have a lot going on during the summer.
Wow, it sounds like it. But it sounds like really great opportunities. And there's another close-knit group of young people, obviously leaders if they're selected by the state at the state convention, right. To represent those different regions.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
I mean, wow, quality friendships developed through that. That sounds pretty amazing. Now you mentioned wardrobe, and you're wearing your FFA jacket today. So I guess this one, this is like a new one. It's got your president. Okay, so tell me about some of the things that you have on your jacket.
So I have my president on here, of
right?
Course, because we decided senior year, might as well.
Right.
Not gonna be another jacket after this.
Yeah.
So I have my president pin on here, and then this is my chapter degree pin, which means I've been in the chapter at least 2 years, and I've fulfilled all the requirements needed. And then this is my chapter farmer, chapter star farmer, and which means I was one of the most outstanding FFA members this past year.
Awesome. So that was you were selected for that. So was that done by adults or your fellow FFA members, or who chooses that?
Jarbo mainly has the main vote, but the FFA members, there are some awards that we do a poll on. We're like, okay, we kind of describe the award. They're like, okay, John gets this one, and then we kind of take those, we see who they write, and sometimes we kind of have to disagree with what they vote, but a lot of the time we're like, yeah, they deserve it.
Yeah, that is awesome. So the officers, the chapter officers are the ones who kind of do all that. And are there some significant is there significant symbolism on that FFA patch?
Yeah, so we have our plow, which is the labor and tillage of the soil. So that is usually our vice president.
Okay.
The plow is the symbol of labor and tillage of the soil. Without labor and knowledge nor wisdom can accomplish much. So that just shows how much work we put in. The owl is our advisor, old and wise, as we call him.
Yeah.
The rising sun, that is the president. They say follow the leadership of our president, so follow the rising sun. The corn is the secretary. That's where secretaries will meet and FFA members meet. And we have our shield of friendship, which is our sentinel. So they're always there to show you that, it's open, you're always welcome, no matter the circumstances. And then our eagle to show America.
So just a little side story, when I was in high school, I was the FFA sweetheart. And so like they had this big FFA Sweetheart competition. And you go out on the stage in front of all these people, and then there's a panel of judges, and they ask you a question at a microphone, and you have to answer that question, and you don't know what the question is going to be. We've had an interview, we've done all these things, we had to do a style show. I mean, there was a lady who really helped me a lot. Anyway, so my question was, what words would you use to describe FFA using the letters FFA? I was like, wow, that's a great question.
That's actually a really good question.
Right? But I remember I said family, and kind of expounded on that. I said friends, and expounded on that, and then I said anyone. And so I kind of pulled it together, but prior to that, you know, someone was like, you know, this might be something, and so joking around, I was coming up with silly words for FFA, and at that moment when they asked that question, I was like, all I can think of is like fish and other words that start with an F that I was making jokes about, you know. So anyway, but even today, in listening to you talk about it, I thought, you know what, family, friends, and anyone, that turned out to be a pretty good choice there.
We will take just about anyone, no matter your past.
Yeah.
So.
I love that so much. I love that FFA is such a great, open organization, and like I said, the fact that, I mean, I grew up in a super small town. So if someone wanted to show an animal and they didn't, you know, have land or anything, I mean, there were people who lived in the country all over who would share stuff with other people. But I mean, they always had a shop as part of their classroom, and they always teach those hands-on skills, you know. But then they also instill all of, like, the work and part of it, the labor, you know, the just being there for other people, and just, I don't know, there's so many great things about FFA. The camp that you went to, what was that camp?
So
for?
that is our alumni camp. It's hosted by the Alumni Association. That's why we call it alumni camp. It's really just another leadership camp. It's a lot like WLC, just more camp-like.
Oh, okay, like
middle of nowhere cabins.
Cabins. Okay.
You might get bit by a snake in the middle of the night. You
Okay.
never
Well,
know.
very
Showers
primitive.
might run.
Kind of different from Washington, D.C.
Yeah, but they teach about some of the exact same things. They just really push it harder, and you know, it's smaller groups. So like my small group this year had a state officer and 11 others. So we grew really close. Lots of energy. So
that is really fun. And like, what would you say is like the breakdown of guys and girls in FFA? Is it pretty close in numbers, or is it predominant?
I feel like there's more girls than guys.
Is that right? Wow. That's. I mean, back in the day, it was mainly the guys who joined FFA. I mean, I don't even remember if girls were allowed to when I was in school or not.
1969 is when they were allowed.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, I guess maybe not very many were interested or something when I was in high school. But anyway, so what do you feel like FFA and your experiences, your leadership opportunities, all of these things you've learned and participated in, do you feel like that has helped you select a direction for your life?
Oh, absolutely. So like since 6th grade, I said I wanted to be a lawyer. So coming into this year, I was like, okay, what can I do agriculturally with this? So I started doing some research, and I can be an agricultural lawyer. So
and like, how would that? What's different about agriculture?
So I would actually be doing more outside stuff. So like setting land boundaries, or helping farmers with their crop, what needs to go where, or what grows here better than this. Or
as an attorney, though, I mean, really,
it's kind of weird how it works.
But I mean, it sounds great. I'm sure there are even there are many ways. It's probably kind of a spectrum of different things you could do with that degree. And so, where are you planning to go to school?
So right now, the plan is to go to OSU, which I actually just got accepted in today.
Woo woo! Yay! I'm not an alum, but I'm excited for Emory. Okay.
So that's the plan right now. I'll get my degree in agribusiness pre-law, and then I'll do 2 years of law school and get my JD, and then take the bar exam.
Wow, very good. Are you planning to stay in Oklahoma?
Right now, that's the plan.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Who knows? That's the one thing about agriculture in the United States.
It's everywhere.
It is. It's everywhere. All kinds of crops and animals and all kinds of things. So, are really big. We had a trail talk about pig farms and chicken and all those, the ones that are like Tyson and big companies like that. Are those things that, like, as an ag, an FFA student or someone who studies agriculture, do those play as big a role as the smaller kind of farmers? And I mean, are they as important?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
So without Tyson, a lot of these farmers wouldn't get money. Because a lot of Tyson, they'll actually hire farmers to raise their chickens
Okay.
And then
what about like the feed and stuff? Are farmers able to sell their grain to Tyson, or do they have to go through?
I
You don't know? Okay. I was just kind of curious. It just popped in my head. That would be interesting to kind of chase that and see how that works. But so I was kind of interested because some of the small time farmers just got squeezed out because of that, but they are actually kind of giving out that job of raising those animals to some of these smaller.
Some of them, yes. A lot of them will say, no, I'm good, I'll pass.
Oh, they don't want to.
Right.
Oh, okay, yeah, the farmer's discretion on all that. Wow. So, Emory, you are a very interesting young man to talk to. I think that the future is looking pretty bright for you. Congratulations, seriously, on being accepted to Oklahoma State. I think that's awesome, and you're gonna. I love it that you have kind of this long-term goal. So it's not like you're gonna get up there and start floundering around. What am I gonna do with myself? And I really feel, it seems kind of like FFA has really helped you make that focus narrow and giving you a way to take the passion you have for being a lawyer and the passion you have for ag and really combine them. So I love that so much. Thanks for being on Trail Talk today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I really I think the viewers maybe have kind of seen FFA and ag from a different point of view, not from someone who's on the outside or a teacher or someone promoting it as an adult, but someone who has grown up and gone through all of these steps and really, I think the thing that you did or that you're doing is you're taking advantage of all of the opportunities that FFA is offering you and just using those to just help yourself, make yourself a more skilled, knowledgeable adult, which is awesome. I'm loving it so much. That's great. Well, I hope you guys are as excited for Emory as we are here at the Heritage Center. We'll be rooting him on. And I want to invite you to join us for the next 2 weeks. We're just going to have one episode a week on Trail Talk, and so be sure you tune in there. I'm going to give you a little teaser. They're both centered around the National Day of the Cowboy, kind of, sort of, mostly. Anyway, you'll want to watch and see. So be sure and join us next time. Emory, thanks again, and I guess it's time to sign off. You know what to do.
I do.
Okay.
Happy trails.